Hello everybody, welcome to another playthrough here on the channel. This time for the back 9 of the Bethpage Black here for the Ryder Cup back 9 tournament in Golf Clash. The game has been an exciting time with the Ryder Cup front 9 or the Bethpage Black front 9, and now when we can play the back 9 it's going to be even more exciting. I've been playing through all the holes with free-to-play balls, giving you here in the playthrough my best possible advice here before the tournament has actually started. For those of you that do want to join the largest guide community on the market, then you scan the QR code on the screen, or you use the link patreon.com/golfclashtommy or patreon.com/GCTquick9 that is in the description down below. We have premium guides for all the game modes to improve you and everyone else's game, if you would so like. Info box on the right hand side with club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, and also a club and ball type I suggest you to play with. Have in mind that they are all suggestions, so you don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but there's always a plan behind it. Let's go to hole number 1. On the drive here on Bethpage Black, hole number 10, and starting with an NMT. The NMT is going to be approximately around a max with a P0 ball. Not exactly there, but approximately. I'm swapping to a ball with a decent amount of wind resistance here for the sake of the walkthrough. I do have a Kingslayer, and you can obviously use whatever wind 8 ball you would so like. You can play this one with a wind 6 ball as well, because what we're doing, we play straight forward down the fairway and laying up for a short iron towards the pin. Especially as you can see here on the second shot, the more wind resistance you have, the easier the second shot will be. That's obviously just a logic thing to say, but this one in particular, as we're going for a backspin shot, if you do have a decent chunk of tailwind, then you could possibly try to get through all of that rough by sliding through using topspin boost, or just landing higher up and have like a better angle and then have a first and a second bounce into the rough to roll up towards the pin. On the second shot, going for a rough bump is the wrong way to do it, in my opinion. This because the rough is very glitchy. You can look for yourself if you don't believe me, but that's the reason to why I go straight onto the green. Now, if we are close to the rough line, you could possibly bounce up towards the pin using the fringe as your landing area, but I do think the value by using the thorn is that we are removing ourselves from all the type of obstacles that we may experience around the green, and we can then allow ourselves to graze on either side and still be super safe. When you play a backspin shot, make note that the ball will be affected a little bit more by the wind than what it otherwise would be. And why is that? It's because that bounce and that bounce, the bounces are higher than normal, then we're using less backspin. True elevation, in my opinion, is 0, so no downhill or no uphill, but when you are going to play this, when it comes to the backspin play, you're gonna have to adjust a little bit more than what you are normally used to. On hole number 11 of the Bethpage Black, we're playing an NMT here off tee, and we are going to play with a P10 ball here, a luminary to be more exact, and to get the ball as far down the fairway possible. Now, you can see we do have a nasty headwind, but if you're looking to see how close we are getting to the green with just a luminary ball and max topspin with our Apocalypse level 8, then you could see yourself being either on the green or by the green very close if using a topspin boost ball. And I do think that's going to be the general play if you are using a paid ball on this particular hole. But even if you would be using a paid ball on this particular hole, you can still get yourself very close to the green. And I do think that if you're having a tailwind, you will most definitely be able to reach to the green with a free-to-play ball as well. So when it comes to the second shot, you can see we are fairly close to the min line. You can decide to either go for a bounce up or you can go for a backspin shot. When I was trying to use the min line and bounce on the fairway, I don't like that ball guideline. It flickers way too much for me. So I moved up to land on the fringe, utilizing a little bit more backspin to attack the pin. which I then feel like I can rely on in a better way. Now, the rough there is possibly a way to play, but I do feel when we have such an open view towards the pin that going for a rough bump is almost a way to just complicate it too much, in my opinion. Now, if you do have a wedge towards the pin, you're going to play it slightly different, as you're going to use an EB school method, hopefully at least. But my point with this particular hole in general is that almost regardless what wind we are getting thrown at off tee, we are going to, as worst, be playing with a fairly short iron. Hole number 12 of the Bethpage Black. If we do have a tailwind, we can most definitely try to attempt to go to green by using a lot of left curl and possibly even left spin. If it is a semi-tailwind, we could probably be doing that as well by using a lot of left spin and left curl. However, we do have a headwind here in the video as I start at rock at P0 max rest, and here I'm using a very small amount of topspin together with as much left spin that I possibly can. Why the small amount of topspin? Is because the more topspin I'm using, the more the ball will go to the right of the fairway. So for me to try to find a combination that makes me go as close to the green possible, but also staying away from the rough. I mean, of course, I can shoot a great left like I'm doing here in the video, but that's obviously not the standard thing we want. But then we need to find the combination of the top spin and the left spin. And obviously, not obviously, but in the headwind segment of wind, especially here from the third tee, you're gonna have to be quite boring to lay up like this, and then you will have most likely a long iron towards the pin. For those with a good eye, look to see here from the rough what we're having. You can see when I'm adding the right spin and the top spin, look how stuck my ball guideline is. And what is that called in the Golf Clash terms? It's called a funnel. And this type of funnel is definitely the one that we shall try to locate, because when we are able to over adjust or under adjust quite a bit and the ball guideline is still stuck the same, it means that we can play with very few, if any, wind angle tweaks, and also that we will have some leeway even if we're pulling slightly different and such. Now I do have a headwind. I did adjust a 1-to-1 just to see how it was going, and using circle just before circle break overpower, but you can see that even if we are using the overpower and all types of messiness, I'm still rolling towards the pin. Obviously coming in hot due to me misreading and using the overpower, which was not necessary in the first place, but very good opportunity when it comes to playing into that funnel, even if we have to lay up. But obviously if we do have a favorable wind off tee, we would most definitely want to send it towards the green. A really difficult par 5, especially when we do have headwind off tee. This is also a long one, so this is not going to be something that we just walk into thinking that we're going to get ourselves an albatross. We're going to have to work for it. So on the drive here on Bethpage Black, hole number 13, I'm starting with the rock at P0 NMT, using topspin and right spin to get the ball to go obviously right, but also as far down the fairway possible. What you need to bear in mind here is that the ball that I'm using, it's most likely a little bit too light on the power, and using a bit more power would definitely be helpful, especially on the approach. When we do have to lay up in a headwind like this, I do most definitely recommend to play with a wood club that gives you a lot of power. In tailwind, we could most definitely consider sending it, and that would be with a wind 0 ball and possibly even together with some topspin boost. As you can see here on the second shot, we are almost already at max club, and we have a big piece of rough to work with there. Sure, you could possibly use some topspin and land into the rough to slide down towards the pin. I liked here in this playthrough at least to try to go on the left side trying to bounce over the rough. And this is obviously not going to be a gimme whatsoever, because especially when you do have headwind, you're most likely going to have to consider using quite a bit of more topspin than what you think to make sure that it follows the line all the way. Also using overpower after adjustment to help compensate for the loss of the distance that we're going to get when the ball gets in the air. And the problem when I then have that P6 ball, in this case, I'm pulling into max club and going to have some shake on the needle. Now, we would need a bit more topspin or a bit more overpower to have a chance, but at least we end up with an eagle. But like I said, this is a tough one, and I do judge the elevation to be 10% downhill on the drive, as I do on the second shot. Take your game to the next level with our ultimate tournament takes, guys, for Master Division for the Ryder Cup BACK 9, the BACK 9 of the Bethpage Black. Very exciting times, and we will continue, as always, providing the best possible guides on the market. Our premium guides gives you a complete breakdown on how to play the specific holes. Obviously, we're not taking the shots for you, so that's something you're going to have to do for yourself. But we're telling you what club to use, what ball to use, where to put your aim, what spins to put, and how to adjust. So all the details are there. If you haven't tried it out, make sure to do so. And obviously, if you are just having a little breather and just coming back to the game, make sure to sign up. Patreon.com/GolfClashTommy, link in the description down below, or scan the QR code. For those interested in Quick 9 content, not necessarily for the Ryder Cup BACK 9, but for the other courses in Quick 9, patreon.com/GCTQuick9 for premium guys for that as well. For hole number 14, we do have a par 3 of the Bethpage Black. Very interesting laid up par 3, where the rough above the bunker is definitely one way to attack the pin. Now, there is a chance as well to go for a backspin boost play here to just land directly onto the green. But if you're using the rough, I do feel that this particular piece of rough above the bunker is the rough piece to go on. At least that is based of me scanning around in the rough in different places trying to locate good or bad spots. Adjustment will vary depending on wind angle we have, and obviously the spin set needs to be a little bit different, especially in headwind, so we do have enough speed to roll down onto the green. I judge the elevation to be 10% downhill, so plus 10% elevation, and an interesting par 3 indeed. On hole number 15, another very narrow fairway to work with, and in a tailwind, this hole is going to be much easier than what it will be if we do have a crosswind or a headwind. The whole fairway is uphill. Doesn't mean that the elevation that we are using of tee is massively uphill. It's still slightly uphill, but not so much. But at least when we are rolling, we are not going to roll as far as we normally do. I think this is a really interesting design, and it's not something we do play a lot in Golf Clash. I'm using curl, side spin and top spin to try to push the ball as far up the fairway possible. And now I'm being a bit conservative. Could have pushed the ball a little bit harder than what I did, but ended up in still a nice spot. If we do have a headwind or also a crosswind, we're most likely not going to reach as far up the fairway as we would like. Obviously, the more aggressive we go in terms of the drive over power needle, the better it's gonna get if we do hit perfect. But if we do have to go conservative of tee, I do recommend to pack a long iron that do give you a lot of backspin, so you can go past the pin and roll back on approach. On the second shot with the thorn here, you can see that we are in like 70% range, 75% range. The rough bump was, to me, too glitchy, so I decided to land on the fringe and try to roll up towards pin like this. It is very important in these new greens to scrub around to have a look for glitchy spots. If you do have a glitchy spot, try to move up or move back or to the side to avoid it. From this position we are playing massively uphill, and you can see we can't even see the pin, means that we don't have much elevation to use. I'm gonna play this one minus 15% elevation, still a little bit under adjusted, and when it comes to the guess here in the video, but definitely a chance. We roll up towards the pin, and like I said on the drive, if we do not have a tailwind off tee, we're most likely going to have to settle for a long iron on the approach, and then I recommend to use a long iron with a lot of backspin to go past the pin and roll back into the hole. On hole number 16, this is a very elevated hole, and when we do have a tailwind, it's most definitely gonna be a very friendly one, as we will be able to carry a very far distance without really having to use any of the paid balls that is out there. I'm using a standard luminary P10 side spin 4 wind 6. You can see that I'm kind of not slinging it around the corner, but I'm taking the path on the left to roll the ball down towards the green. I don't really believe in the par 4 hole in one due to the pin being kind of just behind the rough and the sand, and it's gonna take quite a bit of luck if we're gonna roll through sand or bounce into the rough or something like that. If we do have a headwind or a crosswind, we're gonna have to lay up. Think about the elevation. I judge the elevation of tee, the true elevation, to be so much as plus 25%. For hole number 17 of the Bethpage Black, and we are having two ways really to attack this hole. Either we do go as I'm doing here now, we are going like straight at it with some sort of a rough bump, or we go directly onto the green using some type of backspin boost shot. Obviously, when we are playing into a rough that slopes like this, it's going to be very important to be very detailed in the way that you are setting up your shot. Adjustment is going to vary depending on what type of wind direction you do have. I do adjust 1-to-1 in this particular video, and I'm doing a circle break on the power. Now down the power, or just before circle break on the power. The on the power was not necessary in hindsight, but I used that as I felt that was going to be needed in the tailwind. So many different constellations that you can play this type of par 3, but what I've been locating is to either do for a rough bump like I'm doing in the replay, or to go for some type of backspin boost on the green. And from the 30, we're either using a long iron doing a rough bump, or we use like a wood club to go on the green for some backspin shot. On the last hole of the Bethpage Black, hole number 18, and we are going to smash this ball down the fairway. Now, it's obviously very appealing to smash this ball to go through all the rough here by the green, but for the sake of this playthrough, I'm just going to lay up here very short. Now you can see that I'm not using much of the attributes that I can use on this ball and also with my club. I'm playing this one plus 25% elevation because this is a very elevated hole, and you can see like that, and then I'm doing a circle break overpower there in the end. Now this ball is gonna fly, and obviously with the topspin is going to roll down on the fairway, and we're either going to have a wedge or we're gonna have a short iron here towards the pin. On the second shot, as you can see, I do have a wedge, and I mean we are within the EB school range. I can move back, and I can go for some type of rough bump like this if I would like, using some topspin, which is definitely an interesting thing. Or we can play somewhat a no spin type of wedge, and we'll go directly at the pin like this. Up to you to decide, and obviously with this type of wind angle here, we do have a very favorable wind angle, whereof when it comes to the headwind, I would consider going for some type of a rough bump in the headwind, just as I do feel headwind is definitely harder than going for like a tailwind or a crosswind type of wedge. And if everything goes our way, we will walk away with an eagle. Thank you so much everybody for watching the back 9 playthrough with various wins for the Bethpage Black and the Ryder Cup BACK 9 tournament here in Golf Clash the game. If you do want to have as equal amount of fun, or maybe even more fun than what you had with the Ryder Cup Front 9, sign up for our premium guides by scanning the QR code or use the link patreon.com/golfclashtommy in the description down below.